right, welcome back, YouTube. So today we are going to kick off the year with the first episode of Anomalous Investor for 2026. We have a lot to cover. We're going to talk about Venezuela. We're going to talk about the crypto market, the stock market. I'm going to give some projections here for 2026. We're going to cover a lot of bases today just to kind of set the tone for the year with expectations and kind of see overall what we can expect here, because we've certainly got off to a very interesting start here. Even I'm going to save it for another video, but we're also going to talk about the $200 billion injection to get housing prices down, how this ties into the market here, and what kind of year we can expect to see going forward here. I have a few videos here for us as well that we're going to overall watch together. This is kind of going to set the pace here. I posted them on my X account. If you follow me on X or Instagram, I posted them on both of those. YouTube has been very strict about what it has allowed me to post on here. My last few videos, because I was talking about Venezuela and stuff like that, has been they pretty much rejected it, right? So I haven't been able to post it. So I have tried to post a few times over the last few days, but I didn't feel like redoing it or seeing or trying to extract the reasons as to why it was taken off. So we're going to address that at a later time, or you can check out some of the other platforms. But I want to set the pace here for the video, because we're going to talk about Venezuela first, then we're going to go into crypto, then we're going to go into the stocks, and then we're going to talk about the expectations here that we can go forward. Overall, let me switch over to my X account, and then we're going to take a look here at some of the videos here going forward, because there's 2 points here that we can make about things that happen in Venezuela. And I want to really start the video off right here with the game plan that I believe America has and how this is going to position us overall financially. So let me switch to exit out of here. All right, so you should be able to see the screen here. I'm going to restart this video, and then we're going to just discuss it briefly.
What would you assume is the most major threat on the world stage? Anybody, just call it out. You don't have to raise your hand.
Definitely Russia.
Definitely Russia. That's confident. I like it. Who says Russia? Anybody agree with her? Hands? Okay. Great. Who else?
China.
Stop yelling at me, but China is a good answer. Anybody? Who else? China?
North Korea.
North Korea. Any North Korea takers? And Venezuela? Anybody? No? Oh, yeah. One guy in the back. A little worried about Venezuela. Everybody's cool with Venezuela? No threat? Okay. Let me ask you this. Which one of these places can claim to have the largest oil deposit on the planet? More than Saudi? More than Iran? Wow. Okay. What about things like gold? More than all the mines in Africa combined? The fact is that Venezuela is arguably the single greatest resource of oil and minerals on the planet. So, why is this country in the midst of one of the greatest humanitarian crises in modern history? Let's meet President Nicolás Reyes. After rising to power on a wave of nationalist pride, in a mere 6 years, this guy has crippled the national economy by half. He has raised the poverty rate by almost 400%. Luckily for the rest of us, he's up for re-election. So, who's running against him? This is Gloria Bonalde. Now, Gloria is a history professor turned activist. She's running against him on a social justice platform and on the strength of, in my humble opinion, just not being an asshole. Analyst predictions, as of today, have the chances of Venezuela's total economic collapse at 87%. On the news, they'll call it a crisis. But on the world stage, they'll call it a failed state. If you've never heard that term, other examples of a failed state in recent history are Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. And if that's not bad enough news for you, well, Venezuela is also the only one of these places within 30-minute range from the US of next-gen nuclear missiles. You will not hear about any of this on the news because the biggest players on the world stage do not want you to. To them, unstable governments are nothing more than the greatest of opportunities. So Russia, China, can never be the most major threat until countries like Venezuela leave the door open to our very own backyard.
All right. So this is a couple of points here, which we're going to get into before we get into the second video, because what most people, or at least most of the articles and the posts I've been seeing online, has directed this as an grab for oil, which is part of it. Which is, it's kind of can be, two things can be true, but it's really multifaceted, so that you can have some, obviously a benefit of going there to liberate, or whether it be for drugs or whatever the reason is initially that you go over there. We saw the same thing with like Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction. There's always an initial reason, even though it kind of changes or morphs into something else once you're there. But it's multifaceted, right? And this is really a middle finger to China, which is kind of where we're going to segue this in a second here with the second video. In addition, obviously, when you have countries or establishments that start to become unstable, you will see, or on the brink of economic collapse, you'll see someone eventually move in to kind of claim it. So you'll see it's not abnormal for that to happen, right? If it becomes unstable, it collapses, it basically comes up for grabs, right? This is the same reason why the U.S. has pretty much all of these territories around the United States. Like, do I think the U.S. actually cares about like any of the islands down there? No, but I think it's important for controlling the area, right? Which is kind of the point that they made for Venezuela. Here in this video, I believe it's Jack Ryan. You guys can watch the clip. I believe the show is Jack Ryan. You guys can watch the full clip, but I think it's more so important of controlling the area, right? You control the area, you don't have to worry about someone moving in kind of like into your backyard, which is what he said, AKA this area collapses, somebody's going to claim it, right? We don't want Russia or China establishing a territory right that close to the United States. So they say, okay, well, if it's going to collapse, if it's going to be unstable, then we want to control it, basically, right? And you'll see these kinds of plays throughout the world, right? You'll see that with Russia and Ukraine, with China and Taiwan. There's always other reasons in there, but primarily you'll see that because they don't want these close allies with other nations. Obviously there's economic factors for like Taiwan, but obviously them getting cozy with the United States is not in the disadvantage of China. So this is why we have these threats here and potential invasion soon, similar with Ukraine and NATO, right? So you see this around the world. It's not something that is abnormal. I want to mention. The second factor of that is obviously China has been investing in Venezuela very heavily over the last few years, and they were obviously getting deals on oil, right? And you will see, I'm going to make a second post here that I posted on my account, that they mention that the U.S. had basically stole their
Venezuela
oil.
And demanded.
I'm going to wait here because we have it translated here on my page. Again, you can go to I am David Mitchell Jr. on X to watch it on your own time, but I'm going to play it here as well because it's going to play a part before I segue into the next point of the video. So give me 1 second. I'm going to start it.
The United States has brazenly resorted to the use of force against Venezuela and demanded that America First be applied when Venezuela disposes of its own oil resources. This is a typical act of bullying, a serious violation of international law, and a grave infringement on Venezuela's sovereignty that also severely undermines the rights of Venezuelan people. China strongly condemns this. I would like to stress that the legitimate rights and interests of China and other countries in Venezuela must be protected. The United States has long imposed illegal unilateral sanctions on Venezuela's oil sector and has recently brazenly used force against Venezuela, dealing a severe blow to the country's economic and social order, and also threatening the stability of global production and supply chains. China has already issued strong condemnation in this regard. I would like to reiterate that cooperation between China and Venezuela is a cooperation between sovereign states and is protected by international law and laws of both countries.
Okay, so let me translate that for you. We had a deal with China. The United States just interrupted it. The deal we had should be protected by international laws, and blah, blah, blah. We want our oil, right? That was the deal here. We've invested a lot of money into infrastructure and things down there, aka we've loaned a lot of money to Venezuela. And this was the deal here, was we were going to get paid back with favorable rates, or pretty much we're going to get paid back in oil. So this was beneficial. It became like a trade. We loaned them money. They obviously can't, pay us back in cash, but they have resources. So that was our deal. And this has abruptly, stop this. And obviously you saw the news with the United States pretty much capturing additional tankers and stuff like that as well. But, I'm not going to put that into this video, but that all plays a part into the positioning here of the United States. And we did like a quick play on Chevron earlier this week. Not something for those of you, I know it's probably going to come up as far as for oil. That was more so just a hype trade. I don't believe long term that it's going to have an effect immediately. This is something that is going to take some time to build those things down there. So it's not something that I would actively pump money into for this year, because the resources down there, even if everything goes according to plan, and the United States is able to go down there, build establishments, redo all the infrastructure, and extract oil, that's not something that's going to happen overnight, right? So that's not a thing I would invest in heavily just yet. You're probably going to be able to get better returns. Not even probably, I'm sure you're going to be able to get better returns in other things in the short term here. So we did like a quick play on Chevron on Monday. We're able to get in and get out, get about 50 to 60% on that play. So, but for those of you who are asking or thinking that, that's not something I would jump into. And obviously, if you've been paying attention, you saw that Chevron pretty much reverted back to its initial price after the initial hype here Monday of the news here. And you'll see, you can kind of look at the call put data there and see the amount of puts and shorts that went into that play, because there's nothing there. The revenue isn't there to actually push the asset up, right? It's just literally, it was the hype momentum behind it. So something like that is just simply trading the news, which is what we did on Monday. So right now, that is not a strong play that's really backed by anything just yet. It's more so speculation at this point until you start getting some concrete data down there and timetables and the logistics kind of worked out before you start pumping money into those plays, unless you're just long term those companies anyway, because Chevron, Exxon, they pay dividends. Really strong companies here, so they're not bad holds. But I'm just saying, if you're investing for that reason, just kind of keep that in mind, right? So how this plays into the market overall, this is certainly strengthening of the market here. Certainly, if you're able to do what Trump said, which is extract it and sell it to other countries. Obviously, when that does happen, that's certainly going to be beneficial to the economy here, right? And I believe that something was announced today about it being they're having to buy a lot of their infrastructure, or all of the infrastructure, things that they're going to use to rebuild that sector is all going to be from America, right? So that's going to be obviously beneficial financially for the country here. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. So, I mean, I'm not picking sides. I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong. I'm just laying out the financials here. So I just going to want to put that out there. This isn't me, leaning one way or the other. I'm just kind of putting out what's what and giving you details. You play that however you want, if you want to play it at all, right? Because I know based off of beliefs, there's why some people don't invest in Palantir, right? Because they do weapons. So that's something you're going to have to decide personally. And I'm just here giving you a perspective, right? So overall, I believe that we have a strong January here. Typically, January is a green month. I believe that this January is going to be no different. I'm going to take a look here at crypto, because I'm going to call it out for those of you who are listening to the audio, just so you can see it as well, because I mean, hear it at least, so it makes sense. Okay, you should be able to see the chart now. Okay, perfect. So right here we have what is this? This is Doge. I'm going to point out that we're seeing this with Bitcoin, XRP. We're seeing this setup here where it becomes very strong, that we're setting up for a reversal here, or strong signal here for a move upward. And what I mean by that is we're sitting up here with a both on the fib line and really the 14 and the 72. The orange here is the 72, and the yellow line here is the 14. You'll see that the trend was pretty much hovering around the 14-day rejection, roughly off of the 72, but also rejected to down. Use the 14 as a support, really, and now we kind of like ping pong in between the two. We get that 1472 cross, certainly a very strong signal here for us to go and retest some of those higher levels. Obviously that's going to put us really, we have some light resistance here around like the 16 cents, but overall that what's going to be a big kicker for us is going to be around that 18 cents mark. And then obviously getting back to around that 200-day moving average here, which is around 19-20 cents. So that's going to be a big kicker here for Dogecoin. I want to point this out for Bitcoin because a lot of these are looking very similar. Let's go use Binance. Again, very similar here for Bitcoin. Bitcoin here bouncing off of the 14-day, right around the 89,000, rejected off of the 72. Very similar play here around the 94,000. Same thing. This is going to really be the one of the deciding factors here for the market, which is getting the 1472 cross here in Bitcoin. This is going to be a very key here to when this is going to happen. This is not a matter of if; it's more so just timing, which is kind of what I'm giving you perspective here, so that you can kind of time entries as well if you like, because obviously I believe Bitcoin is going to exceed far of these numbers here, and obviously you're going to have that rising tides raises all boats. So you'll see that reflect, those shock waves get sent out through the market, and you'll kind of have like an ideal here. But you'll see where the 200-day moving average is. The 200-day moving average is still over 6 figures, right? So sustained a sustained trend here is going to put us above around the 93,000 mark here, and we're hovering around 90,000 now. So another 3-4 grand, and being able to hold it, it's going to give us that push we need here to have us to get that, going to confirm that signal back to the upside here. But obviously, same thing with what we looked at before with Doge, Bitcoin. Well, any of these here, we start catching them below the 14-day moving average, and you see the 72 and the 200, you're long on these assets because you know where we're headed, you know where crypto is headed. These are the very important times here to kind of catch them at these levels here, because they've been offering fantastic returns, even if you've just been swinging them. If you've been holding them, obviously it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I do believe that we're transitioning out of the 4-year cycle, especially as these ETFs are introduced. I went into that a little bit more in depth, I believe, in the last episode, but I believe that we're kind of transitioning out of that, and we're going to see more of a sustained pattern here going forward. Obviously, like the halving definitely plays a part here, but overall, I believe that we're not going to have like that. I guess we can say like that 90% sell off and all that after every halving, and it goes into crypto winter for 4 years, and people forget that it exists, and like those days are gone, right? So that's kind of what I'm leaning for here. I want to point out XRP as well, because XRP has done fantastic here this year. I wanted to point that out. What is, matter of fact, I feel like adjusting that chart. Let me use Bitfinex. Yeah. So same thing here, but obviously you can notice a much bigger candle, right? Really, you can even call this a God candle here. A huge candle here on the daily for XRP, right? And then we also have a much tighter space here between the 14 and the 72. For those of you who are looking at this and not listening, the space between the 14 and the 72 is much smaller, right? So we're much closer to getting a confirmation on XRP to the upside, and that's going to be beneficial here, because the returns that XRP gave in 2026 alone, this is a very strong move, right? You literally went from the 14-day, and then you had 3 very strong candles upwards. That's not a weak trend, right? But you notice that, okay, so you can say, oh, okay, we got rejected off of the 240 mark. But these are much weaker and smaller candles down compared to the move up, right? This is just 3 moves here. These are 3 candles that took you from $1.85 to 240, right? Well, 3 candles took you from the 14-day to roughly about halfway to the 200-day moving average, right? And right now, you still aren't back at the 14-day. So this is what this hovering around the $2 price is actually going to close the gap even further between the 14-day and the 72, because really XRP is resting slightly below, right on the 72-day moving average. So you can make the argument that this is not even to make the argument, but that this is going to close the gap even further. So you're very close to getting that confirmation of an aggressive move up. So these are things that I'm looking for overall in the market. It's kind of getting like these confirmations, setting the tone for this market, because typically if January is a good month, the market typically will close up for the year. I believe that that's over 50% if I'm not mistaken. So let's take a look here at. I'm gonna have to switch to stocks, but one of my favorite here, excuse me, which is Nvidia. This is even closer here. The 14 and 72 are touching, right? So this is what I meant by if you're able to kind of catch it at these lows here, far below these averages here. Obviously, it's not below the 200-day because it actually just skyrocketed since last year. But being able to catch it below the 72, below the 14-day, this is a big deal for those of you who invest in the stock market as well. This is certainly going to be one of the things that we talk about in the group, and one of the things that we have options on in the group. And for those of you who are wondering, the reason I talk about investing, or at least a lot of different plays in the stock market, is because I don't trade crypto. I don't short crypto. I don't do any of those things. Crypto is buy and hold for me, right? Everything as far as for investing or making money, that comes from the stock market. Just in case, just going to clear that up, because a lot of the different plays and stuff is revolving around the stock market. Even though I do talk a lot about crypto is going to be buy and hold. I'm just looking for entries and being patient. That's my strategy for crypto. Stock market, I'm doing that obviously in the long-term account, but also for making money short-term. This is why this is important here. These entries, because I'm going to jump in and jump out. So, but right here, getting it around this 170 mark, again, below that 72, these are the averages you're looking for. That can transfer over from crypto to stocks, because that's going to be a big part here in getting those great entries. So that's going to be something that I believe is very important going forward. And we're going to have to see how these prices kind of correlates because China announced, I believe it starts in January, that they're pretty much going to weaponize their silver, right? So this is another thing that's kind of going to play into the game plan for America here, because if these things are going to get more expensive, you saw the comment from Elon Musk saying that silver shouldn't be that high. I believe it was a tragedy or something like that. I have to find the exact post, but I know he made a comment about silver prices. Why? Because of Tesla. These are things that has been very important to America's economy. That's why I titled this video America's Game Plan, because this is things that America is going to have to do to kind of combat these areas financially, because the stock market has been held up by our tech. We can't get around that. We can't deny that. So obviously we see rising silver costs. This is going to play a part. So these are things that we're going to have to look into going forward to kind of see how it plays out, to see the cost of these things. These contracts have already been signed a lot for these deliverables, and then you have these variations in price, that can cause some cause for concern. So that's something we're going to have to kind of monitor here to see overall if this is going to affect price or profitability, or squeeze any of those margins because of where they agreed to produce things at versus the actual cost of production. So, because some things, there are variable costs, right? So, depending on what's in those contracts, we'll see how tight those margins get squeezed, right? So, overall, I believe we're going to have and a good year. I believe Google's going to do well. I believe Nvidia is going to do well. Tesla, I'm not quite sure on just yet. I'll probably save that for maybe as we get closer to closing out Q1. I still have some concerns for Tesla. Tesla is is one of my favorite stocks, just so you know. So we'll see about that. I do believe Google's going to do well. Nvidia, MSTR. I'm making a lot of moves in there as well, especially for those of you that are in the Patreon or the Discord. You guys know that that's going to be one of our my favorite things here. And SPY, right? I believe, and this is why I said I believe that we're going to have a good year. I believe SPY, we're at like what 680 now. I believe roughly we're going to move up about 100 points this year. So I believe we're going to be somewhere around like 780, 790 to end the year. So I believe, maybe even 800, but we'll see. But I believe we're going to move up around roughly 100 points. So I think that's going to be a good overall a good indication for where the year is going. Not saying there's not going to be any bumps. Obviously, some like invasions or wars or something like that obviously can affect that. But overall, I believe the market has kind of spoken as far as for or at least set the tone what we can expect here. So I'm expecting an overall positive year here. I started the options account over and the long-term account where I started both of those accounts over. So we're going to take both of those accounts and grow those. I'm setting targets of around roughly 10,000 for both of those accounts by the end of the year. So, just follow if you're interested in kind of seeing that progress here. I'm going to start with like 500 and we're going to grow those accounts here. So if you, there's nothing to post now because I haven't made an official trade inside that group. The swing in Chevron wasn't inside the group. It was just a play that, I gave, but the official first trade in that group is probably going to be like tomorrow or Monday. So next time you'll see kind of like how that's performing and everything in the video. So just kind of give you an idea to kind of look out for that. Overall, let me know your thoughts based off of things with Venezuela, stock market, crypto market. What are your expectations? And really what I'm curious about, I want to know, what do you believe SPY will close at the end of the year? What is your target for the end of the year? That's what I'm curious at. So put those numbers in the chat so we kind of have a discussion here. I kind of want to see where everyone's mindset is for the year and if we're going to have a positive year, if we're going to crash, go into recession. Is the housing going to crash? Is the stock market, we're going to have a major pullback? We're going to have a red year. I want to see where everyone's mind's at. So let me know your thoughts and I will see you guys in the next video.